Hey, well, good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we got a couple of boxes of goodies for our 2000 CR125R build. Stick around, we're going to go unbox this stuff and start putting this thing back together. Stay tuned. Alright, let's see what we got here. New set of front wheel bearings and seals. We got the cover for the power valve that was missing, and a bunch of other parts, miscellaneous, gaskets, screws. Got a new spark plug, all for the power valve assembly. We have the rear shock seal kit, along with Honda. This is the oil that Honda recommends for this rear shock. I know it says fork oil, but it is what it is. A couple of new red levers to match the red scheme that they had going on. If you remember the bearing, small bearing that was in the case that was coming apart, we've got that. Got a new clutch perch to make all that stuff nice. And then, of course, we have the creme de la creme hot rods, complete crank kit. It's the total bottom end. Let's open this thing up and take a look at it. Okay, so it comes with a Vertex gasket kit. I'm not sure all what this covers, but it looks like there's a cylinder head gasket in here, so maybe it's a whole engine. Some air from China. Got the seal kit, that's nice. Comes with the crankshaft bearings and seals, also nice. Another little box inside of a box. Russian nesting boxes. Alright. Stickers for my cabinet, very important. Oh, look at that. I mean, just look at it. And our upper bearing. Let's get this open so you can see the difference in the play from our old one. Well, here they are side by side. You remember our old one, a lot of play, a little bit of up and down play as well. Our new one doesn't even barely move. There's no up and down play. It's absolutely perfect, and it feels so smooth. For our next order of business, on both of the cases, we're going to get this bearing pressed out or beat out and the seals replaced. I'm pretty sure they make a tool for this too, but us do-it-yourselfer guys at home probably are not going to have that. So we'll just get a socket that fits the inner bearing race. I certainly wouldn't do this if you're going to reuse these bearings, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to reuse bearings, so we're just going to knock these out. So it's a lot of shavings. Well, we'll knock this one out, we'll knock the other one out, we're going to clean these cases up real good, and we're going to put the new ones in. Now for the transmission side of the case, obviously you could take the entire transmission out of it, throw a rag around it and some tape, this way the gears don't fall apart. Makes it a little bit easier. You're going to need a couple of 2x4s for this particular side, but we're going to go ahead and get this seal out of here. This one ain't ready to go yet. Alright, Alright, gotta bring out the big guns. There she is. I went ahead and cleaned up this left side case, cleaned the bearings, put some fresh oil in all these little spots. We also put new seals on here. So we're going to go ahead and bang in the new crankshaft bearing. Definitely recommend using a bearing and seal press tool. This definitely makes it much easier. There she is. She's seated fully. We'll flip it over and throw in this outer seal, and then we'll do the other case. Just some good old-fashioned engine oil. Since you did clean this out, a lot of the lubrication will be stripped from the bearings, so we definitely want to replace that. Got our new seals and our new bearings, and it's time to pull the crankshaft in. This is not something you want to be hammering. It's definitely well worth the money for this tool. I think it was like $50, and it's specifically made to actually pull the crankshaft into the bearings. It's a very tight pressed fit. This is the best way to do it without damaging anything. So basically what this thing does is there's an end, and then you have adapters, whether you have a female threaded end or the male threaded end. These screw on inside of here. Once you put this on and you tighten this, it actually will pull the crankshaft through. As you tighten this, it's actually going to hold on the case and pull the crankshaft through. Critical that your rod stays in between here. If it gets over here, you could definitely bend it, and then you're starting all over again. Plus you'll be upset with yourself. Need a deeper socket. Sure makes it nice and easy. After test fitting this center crankcase gasket, I like to get a little bit of ultra black. Permatex makes it, or ultra gray. It's got a good oil resistance and it's good for heat. So I want to just cover this very lightly. We're not making a gasket because we have one, but just very lightly covering both sides of it. It'll help to fill any imperfections that may be in between the two cases. Get our bolts started, make sure that the gasket is lined up properly. Got to figure out where they all go. We'll go ahead and tighten up all the bolts. Two case halves are pressed together. Everything's spinning nice and free. Nice and quiet. Those bearings feel good. It's nice and smooth. So we're going to go ahead and get the clutch side back together. Don't be afraid to put dabs of oil all these surfaces that are rubbing. When we go ahead and tighten up these clutch spring hub bolts here, we want to go in a cross pattern. This will eliminate or cut down on the chances of anything getting warped in here. You know, definitely want to crank one down and then go to the next one and then the next one. So we're just going to go little by little all the way across. I'm going to start with my impact driver, but I'm going to hold the socket so that it does not turn too fast. Also, the trigger is pretty fine on this thing. I'll just finish them off by hand. You can always look up the torque spec. It's always the best deal. I've done enough of these where I can just tell. I've done so many that it's worn the ball out on my socket, on my ratchet. That is it. We'll get this outer cover on. Remember, we're putting our RTV on each side of the gasket very thin. Now granted, this will make this gasket unreusable, but let's face it, who reuses gaskets? Let's not forget your Woodward key from your old crankshaft. The new one does not come with one. You could put the Magneto on incorrectly and then have a hell of a time trying to figure out why she won't start. that's basically going to do it for our bottom end. I've been trying to contemplate what I want to do with this cylinder and piston. It looks like it's probably going to have to be sent out to be replated, nickel plated. And the turnaround time on that is 5 weeks. So it's going to be a while. I don't know if I'm going to finish this video up here or continue it in a later segment. Since the plater is going to require that the cylinder be stripped down before you send it to them, otherwise they'll charge you extra money. The studs have to come out, your power valve has to come out, although you can send it with them so that they can make sure it fits once they re-sleeve the cylinder. I'm going to show you guys real quick on how to get these studs out so you don't go and grab them with a pair of pliers and mar up the threads. What you want to do is get the nuts that were on there specifically, or get two that match. Thread one down. The threads are a little dirty, so she's tight. You're going to thread the second one. Up against it, and then you want to tighten them together. Hold the bottom one, snug up the top one. So now what you can do is you can actually go on the inner nut, and you have a good way to back the stud out without damaging the threads. You put them back together the same way. Well, after throwing all the options on the old scale, I've come to the conclusion the cylinder's got to be re-nickel. Going to replace the piston. It's terribly beat up. If you remember from the earlier video, the cylinder head had a lot of pitting. I cleaned that as best as I could. Now, I'm not one to normally do things the right way, but in this particular case, I'm replacing the entire bottom end. Crankshaft, bearings, seals. I'm replacing the top end. It's fairly costly, so it just doesn't make any sense to not just order a new cylinder head. It's like 89 bucks or something like that. That's going to be it for this video here. I'm going to send this stuff off, get it done, order some parts. I appreciate you watching. In my next video, the parts will be back. We'll assemble the top end. I'll walk you through how to do that. I'm going to have a couple spin-offs on this thing. The rear shock needs to be rebuilt. Front wheel bearings need to be done. The pipe, the expansion chamber, the big pipe that comes out of the engine, has a couple of dents, and we're going to try and see if we can get those out using a very sketchy method. So stay tuned for that. Do me a favor, throw me a like if anything helped you out in this bottom end rebuild. A subscription would be great. Tell your friends about me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one.